The cavalry was also in charge of the nation's 3 other national parks: General Grant, Sequoia, and the high country surrounding Yosemite. Each spring, troops stationed at the Presidio in San Francisco would make the 2-week, 250-mile ride to the Sierras and patrol the 3 parks during the summer season. Some of them were African Americans, the celebrated Buffalo Soldiers of the 9th and 10th Cavalry, who had made a name for themselves in the Indian Wars. Their commander was Captain Charles Young, born into slavery in Kentucky, whose father had escaped bondage during the Civil War to enlist in the Union Army. Young followed his father's example of military service, becoming the 3rd black man to graduate from West Point and the 1st to be put in charge of a national park.
If you're an enlisted man and then you see an African-American officer, that stays in your mind, and it also sparks a fire in your own sense of self-worth, your own sense of what is possible in this world, because you might say to yourself, if he could do that, maybe I could do that as well. So he was a walking inspiration to the enlisted men in the 9th and 10th Cavalry.
As superintendent of Sequoia, Young directed his men to complete the first wagon road into the giant forest. They accomplished more in one summer than had been done in the 3 previous years combined. They built the first trail to Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the West, and erected fences around the big trees to prevent vandalism by visitors.
So the early parks, Yellowstone, Sequoia, and Yosemite, you had to have park protectors because otherwise people would be going into those areas doing what they've always done, cutting trees down, for firewood, or shooting the game, shooting the deer to feed their family. How do you tell someone who's just trying to keep their children fed, not hungry, that it's illegal now to shoot the game in Yosemite or in Sequoia National Park? And that'd be a difficult proposition if you were a white soldier. But when you add that overlay of race, which is no overlay at all, and you have an African American, a colored man, giving orders to people who are not used to taking orders from anyone who looks like me, then you have the beginning of a very interesting day.
Like their counterparts at Yellowstone, the troops in California had to operate without clear legal authority, and therefore invented techniques to protect their parks. When they collected travelers' rifles upon entry and only returned them when the visitors left, the wildlife began to come back.